So this is quite different from a normal Star Wars CCG game where two people are playing each other and trying to deplete the other person's life force. This is two decks designed to end up with a an ideal outcome for one side. Kind of a crazy thing that wouldn't happen in the game. So the idea here is that the dark side is going to use the Death Star and commence primary ignition to blow up Hoth and create the absolute maximum amount of force damage that I could possibly think of with Hoth. So when Hoth is destroyed by commence primary ignition, it is the light side has to lose 2 force for each light side icon on the planet. So both decks are going to try to get as many light side icons on the planet as possible. And the board's going to get pretty stretched out here because that ends up meaning there's a lot of sites on the table. Part of the issue with commence primary ignition is that when you use commence primary ignition, you have to deal with the fact that there are the rebel base sites that subtract from your total. So you have to have a bunch of Death Star sites to counteract that. So deploying a bunch of sites, you got to get super laser out, of course. And some might ask, well, why didn't you use the objective, the set your course for Alderaan objective? The main reason is that it cancels revolution. And if it cancels revolution, then we can't flip a lot of these sites to turn dark side icons, of which there had been a majority, into light side icons. So a lot of sites in the deck, a lot of systems. We're going to need some gunners. But yeah, getting icons out to Hoth. And it's going to take a lot of drawing of cards too. The droid detectors here, they're going to let us search our force pile for cards that we may want to get. And Echo Base Operations is going to let us get a bunch of Echo sites out. So you may have guessed that I'm playing both decks here at the same time. This is basically just had two computers going. The Endor site is out for a reason, not just to give activation. There's a card that I'm going to try to get from there, and I just checked the rules. It didn't work on in this game. It was a bit of a bug, but yeah, there it is, the Walkling. So the Walkling, we'll pause the game here real quick. That adds one light side icon while the Ewok is present. So the idea was to docking bay transit Wicket over to this docking bay, and the Walkling is allowed to come with, but it glitched in GEMP because it wasn't coded, which, to be fair, why would anyone want to docking bay transit a Walkling away? So it never really got tested, but that is one thing to consider when we total up the force loss at the end, that there should be 2 more because of the 1 extra icon. Getting these droid detectors out is going to let us search the force pile. So now there's 4 devices on table, so I can peek at the top 4 cards in my force pile. But I'll deploy Presence of the Force first. So we're adding yet another light side icon to Hoth. And a lot of sites there. So I see, oh, there's all these sites. Well, I might as well just draw up and get a bunch of sites. But I got to move the Death Star first, because the Death Star's eventually got to get out there to Hoth. Starts at 0. It's got to get to Parsec 5. Lots of devices now. That's a system. It's kind of hard to see in the corner. And another Presence of the Force. We've already deployed 2. I put an extra one in there just to make it easier to find. Now we got the Krennic Death Star Commandant here, so he's going to let us search our force pile as well. Lots of tunnel visions to get key cards. It's three in a row. I wouldn't recommend that in a normal game, but I mean, in theory, you can just have both players draw up and like play traffic control and put a bunch of cards back. So Tantive 4 adds an icon to Hoth. R2D2 adds an icon. That adds one of each icon when at a battleground. So unfortunately, the Docking Bay Transit didn't work, although rules-wise, the Walkling should have come with adding yet another icon. And the light side is being very helpful, helping the dark side activate force here. So lots of stuff to deploy. I'm going to get a lot of devices out too. Inverts the Hoth Ridge. So lots of droid detectors. Apparently, you can actually deploy droid detectors under the shield, is what it was lighting up there for. So it doesn't really do any good for what I'm trying to do here. But sometimes it's funny to deploy droid detectors where your opponent has a C3PO and he's got to move away, and the only place he can move to is a place where there's another droid detector, so he ends up being lost. But it's kind of a silly card. So top card of the deck, there's a 5. I'm going to deploy some gunners. We want to get a Star Destroyer out because Jedha adds to our super laser weapon destinies. And now it's time to orbit Nalhutta. So we're at Parsec 3. We're 2 parsecs away. Got some point men. I think that Jedha site doesn't need to be in there anymore after I went away from the objective. Let's see what we can fish from the force pile. So another Death Star gunner, I think, is, yep, that's what I went with. I want to make sure you got everybody possible. Okay, so Leia's adding an icon. Wicket was supposed to be adding an icon with the Walkling. R2D2 is. Yet another Death Star site. Getting the cave out, and that's two icons for the dark side, none for the light side, but revolutions are going to flip flop those pretty quickly. Take another Death Star site. And we're only 1 planet away. So we're at Parsec 4 right now. Might as well keep using Point Man. surface defense, since the super laser is a weapon that actually does work, you can add that for your weapon destiny. So that flips the Wampa Cave, and now it's a 2-0 site for the light side. That flips the North Ridge, so now it's a 3-2 in favor of the light side, I believe. I think that's a Presence of the Force on there. It's so tiny, but I think we can zoom. Yeah, so Presence of the Force. It was, oh, you know what? That's Hoth Mountains. It's so small I couldn't tell. So that's a 2-1 in favor of the light side now. Now that's a 2-0 in favor of the light side. Another revolution. So that's a 2-1 in favor of the light side. Two one in favor of the light side, and another tunnel vision. Why not? So this one's a 2-2, so there's no reason to flip that. Okay, so the dark side's getting closer now. That makes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Death Star sites out. And now we finally orbited Hoth. That commence primary ignition can only play during the control phase. That's going to be next turn. And it does cost a lot of force to do. So you got to use X force, which is going to be a lot. Going to be 11, I think. We need to get our commence primary ignition total greater than 8 is the goal. So we got all those revolutions out, and it's time to see if we can blow away Hoth. So a 5 and 1. Need to get a total more than 8. You're adding all the Death Star sites, subtracting all the Hoth sites, adding the gunner totals, adding 1 because the control room, 11. So even with all those modifiers, that was pretty close. And then just kind of to be funny, I put it could be worse in there for the light side, and then played, so you use 21 force to reduce your force loss by 21, but it could be worse cancels that, and then you can use all your force. So I ended up getting a total of 57 there, depending on how you do that. It could be worse versus it's worse, it could change, but that's going to tick down. Speed that up a bit. And yeah, so that's the biggest amount of force loss I was able to manage. What was the total there? 57, and I guess before the it could be worse, it would have been a 53. Yeah, so maybe there's, I think with if Walkling would have worked as written, it would have been 55 force loss. So maybe there's a way to get more than 55 force loss. I'd be interested to see if I missed any cards. Maybe put those in the comments. But just a fun, silly exercise to see how many force I could have the light side lose just by blowing up one planet. So hope you thought that was fun. And yeah, let me know if I missed anything where I could have made the force loss even higher before the it could be worse / it's worse combo. Thanks for watching. I hope you tune in for future videos.